Well, I want to take you guys through some training on the stationary trainer here while I'm doing a moderate workout, not too hard. But I want to talk to you about some things that you should know about cardio training. Mostly what we're going to be talking about, and this is one way of getting your cardio training in. Right now it's winter time here in Ohio, December 14th, and it's way too cold. Roads are icy, and I'm not going to get out there and do any road bike riding or mountain bike riding. But I really don't mind at all. I actually enjoy working out on the trainer. Set it up in the basement. I have my TV right there in front of me, and a clock up above to watch the time. Also have a Garmin device on here that I can see the time and other stats. Talk about that later. But yeah, I mean, I got Motocross on TV. It's TiVo'd. Got my remote right here, so I can watch Motocross. This is a Supercross on right now while I'm working out here. But as far as the working out goes, I always start out at a easy cadence, rather easy, and the resistance is really easy too. And I'm going to start my Garmin right now, start recording. But yeah, I start out easy and just get warmed up. Today, what I've been doing here lately is a 45-minute cardio session on the training bike. I don't go very hard. I get my heart rate up to, usually towards the end, it's getting up to about 90% of my max, but it doesn't feel very hard because I gradually get up to that pace. So again, I'm starting out at a pretty low cadence. Right now, I'm at a 85 cadence, which is pretty low. My max efficiency, if I'm out on a ride, is about a 90 to 95 cadence. I'll talk a little more about that here. But it's good to have a cadence meter on your bike. I like the Garmin. They have different models that are out. If you get the latest and greatest, they're pretty expensive. I got an older model. I mean, I think there's like 5 models out since this one, and this one works just fine. You can set different screens up on it, little blocks of information. I always like to have 5 screens on mine. I can look down at the first top block is the speed, the second is the cadence, and the third is my heart rate. And then below there, in 2 smaller little blocks, there's the time and the distance. So it's nice because while you're riding, you just look right down there and there it is, you know. Check your cadences is important, because when you go with a fast cadence, I mean, it all depends on how much resistance you're pushing. But you can push, and it measures on cycling, it measures in watts. That's your power, how many watts you're producing. And you'd be surprised that when you go at a lower cadence where it's harder to pedal, you know, you're in a taller gear, you'd think that, man, my watts gotta be really high, I'm really killing it. Your legs are getting tight, they're kind of pumping up. There you are, they will be pumping up with lactic acid. And then you go to a lower gear so you can spin faster, and your watts is the same power, or even sometimes more power. And the thing about a faster cadence is your muscles aren't going to pump up with lactic acid. And then it's just like you feel like you're working really hard, but you're not putting out many watts. Even when you go to a faster cadence, as long as your legs are pumped up with lactic acid, you're not going to be very strong in a high cadence or a low cadence. And that really relates to motocross. Because when you're racing motocross, if your muscles are pumping up with lactic acid, not only is your control, the feeling, quickness, reflexes going to be slower, worse, but lactic acid pump also takes your strength away. And you can really see that on the bicycle. So motocross is more of an aerobic sport than it is a strength sport. I'm going to go up to a little higher gear now, get a little bit more resistance. By the way, this trainer, it's a Fluid 2 by Cyclops. I like it really well because your speed is going to be very similar to what you would be going on the ground, on a road, on a flat pace, a flat road, without any wind factors. So, like right now, I'm going 19.3 miles an hour. That'd be about, what I'd be going, this resistance, what I'd be going on flat road. So it's a good, easy way to kind of know what you'd be doing on the road while you're training here. Heart rate right now is at 110. So, what was I talking about? Getting back here to, the Cyclops trainer. Your cadence. Cadence is huge in motocross. Yeah, in motocross. In cycling. In case you don't know, cadence is your RPM. If you don't have a cadence meter, because I didn't have one for a long time, you can look at a watch and watch the second hand and count every time one of your feet is all the way down. Say your right foot. Every time it's all the way down, count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You watch the second hand and time it for 30 seconds and then multiply it by 2. So if you get to 40, 1, 2, 3, 4, every time your foot goes down, in 30 seconds, that's 40, multiply it by 2, that's 80. That means your cadence is 80, which is a pretty low cadence. If you're pushing a lot of watts at a 80 cadence, your legs are going to pump up. Your legs are going to pump up before your heart rate maxes out. Now, if you're, say, pushing a lot of watts at a 95 cadence, good chance your heart rate's going to max out about the same time your legs max out. But the key in cycling and motocross is to be very efficient with your body movements and positions. So on a bicycle, you're at a 90, 95 cadence, and you're not maxing out, but you're putting out a lot of watts. You're putting out a good amount of power. So you're traveling, at a good speed. It relates to motocross in a way that you should be riding as fast as you can go, high heart rate, but you're loose with your little bit of movements, balance, timing, all that stuff is synced together, so you're not pumping up anywhere with lactic acid. Most guys that have problems pumping up with lactic acid, they're not feeling that their legs are pumped up with lactic acid. They're feeling that their arms, especially their forearms, all of their arms really, the shoulders, back, they don't notice that as much. Chest, but it's pumping up too. And of course they notice it most in their arms. They're pumping up. Well, just like in a lot of my other riding tips, motocross practice drills, stuff like that, I keep stressing tight legs, loose arms. I say that over and over again, and I have a lot of examples of that. That is huge, because if you're riding with strength from your upper body, you're going to pump up. You know, there's no other way it's going to work. It's kind of like doing a cycling in a low cadence, putting out a lot of watts. You're going to pump up. The same thing in motocross. Your arms are going to pump up if you're using a lot of strength to ride. In other words, if you're supporting your weight in your arms, both sitting and standing, if you're, trying to hold the bike in a position in the corner with the handlebars in your arms, upper body, you're going to pump up because you're using strength. You're going into an anaerobic movement. So, like I say before, man, it's all about tight legs, loose arms. Your legs can be tight because that's a low center of gravity. That's where you're supporting your weight on the motorcycle. So it allows your upper body to be loose and to be able to move and balance and keep from getting locked up. You have to learn and train your body to do that. A lot of the strength exercises that I have in this program for you online coaching subscribers is going to strengthen your core. So this down here attached to the motorcycle and low is going to be your foundation. It's going to be your strength. Your upper body can be free to move and balance and go with the flow of the handlebars and balance the handlebars instead of holding the handlebars. And you're going to be able to ride loose and smooth, in control, have a fine feel for the clutch and throttle, front and rear brakes, and your balance. So that is definitely key. Now, forgot to look at the clock up there when I started, and this thing is hard to see unless it's in the sunlight, daylight. But it looks like I've been going for about 10 minutes. Right now my cadence is 90. Speed is 19.1. Heart rate is 112. And it feels relatively easy because I really, now in the off season where I'm not riding outside and doing very much outside, so cold, I look at it for me is an easy time of training, just to relax more and let my body rest more. I'm not resting, believe me, I'm still working out, but I take more days off. I don't do as much strength training, or as much and as hard, especially hard on cycling, because when the weather's good, I do a lot of hard cycling, strength training. Not so much for me because I do most of my training on the bicycle, but I get strength training on the bike too for my legs because of hills and just intervals. Really get my heart rate maxing out and then bring it back down. A lot of that kind of riding. And I don't mind it so much outside. You're out in the country riding out on the roads and stuff. Takes your mind off of the pain that you're going through. To do that here in a stationary position, it's a lot more difficult and boring. So anyway, yeah, that's just me. I take that time off in the winter to maintain, but just to feel good and do some training, but not as hard. So that's what I'm doing on the bike now, is the easier training session. Cadence is 92, 19.5 miles an hour, heart rate It went up a little bit to 114, 115, kind of bouncing back and forth, and been at it for about 10 minutes. Every once in a while I go up to a taller gear and stand up for about 2 minutes and pedal. There's a big difference, of course, between standing and sitting. When you're standing, you're at a lower cadence. Unless you're doing a sprint or you're putting an all-out effort in with your watts, then you can be at a fast cadence, but you're pushing a tall gear. If you're in a lower gear at a higher cadence and it's just spinning, you're not putting out many watts while you're standing up, it's really a waste of energy and effort, because at that lower wattage you'd be more efficient sitting down spinning. So standing up is usually for a lower gear, slower cadence. But I like to stand up even on a stationary trainer to let my body work in a different position. Muscles, legs, hips, glutes, all work in a different position. I usually go down on the lower bars because I'm supporting a lot of my weight right now in my arms, so my legs can spin faster, because I'm not at a real high resistance, just kind of an efficient resistance. Like right now I'm going 20.7 miles an hour. Usually on the road I go up here when I'm standing up, and it's usually up hills, but I'll be at a more wattage, more resistance usually. I kind of forgot where I started at. That should be about 2 minutes. Now I shift it back up into a lower gear so I can spin faster. I got my heart rate up to 134. Back at, there's 92 cadence. Yeah, feels pretty good. Speaking of heart rate, yeah, my heart rate's coming down now, 129. My max heart rate on the bicycle, lately anyway, when I was riding outside, is about 163, and that's all out, usually up a hill, a lot of standing, trying to keep a high cadence, keep my speed up the hill for, a long ways. We'll reach about 163, and I feel like I'm going to blow a gasket. That is maxed out. Of course, I get top of the hill, it's nice to recover, but I always keep pedaling even on the downhills, unless I get going so fast that I'm spinning out, because the movement, the pedaling, helps circulation get back in instead of just no movement. And it's really interesting how your max heart rate will differ on a bicycle versus to running or even riding motocross. I did tests on myself a couple years ago when my max heart rate on the bicycle was 167. and on a motocross bike, and the track wasn't even that rough, and it wasn't really very hot, and I was riding, yeah, you know, about as fast and as smooth as I could ride for a 20-minute moto, and my max heart rate and average heart rate was a lot higher. My max heart rate was 173, so from 7, that's six beats a minute faster than my max heart rate on the bicycle, which was 167. But again, not very rough, not very hot, and I felt like it wasn't that hard. Like, you know, I was just doing a moto. It wasn't that hard. Didn't feel like I was going to blow a gasket or anything. It felt really, really good. Seemed kind of easy. But the max heart rate was 6 beats faster, and my average heart rate was higher than on the bicycle. So, did a lot of thinking about that over weeks, really, and came to the conclusion that the reason it's higher on a motorcycle, motocross, is because of the intensity. You're using all the muscles in your body at the same time, whereas in cycling, of course, you're using pretty much from your waist down. And the danger element, I mean, you're right on the edge of slipping out, crashing. You know, you have to be very, very alert, and you feel everything that's happening. And if it feels like a little sketchy, your heart rate goes up because of the adrenaline, the danger factor. So your heart rates, training zones on a bicycle is going to be different. You got to compensate for that in your training zones. And you have all that information on how to do that in your PDF file about heart rate training zones, so you know how to figure that out. The best way is to do a max heart rate test in each discipline of training that you're using, whether it be cycling, running, or on the motocross bike. Heart rate 127. Now that might seem pretty low if you're a younger person, but as you age, your heart rate slows. Your max heart rate isn't as high. There's a formula that you can use if you're 18 years or older to kind of get a general idea of where your age is, well, where your max heart rate should be in relation to your age. And it's the 220 formula. You add your age to 220, and that should be your max heart rate. But everybody's different, and you can't really go by that, especially different training zones or different training disciplines, running, cycling, motocross. So while you're doing your cardio training, you should definitely have a heart rate monitor on. If you're on a bicycle, like I say, I like the Garmin devices. This is a 510 Edge, which you could probably get now with the sensors that you need on your bike. I'm guessing for around, I don't know, 250, 280. And then, or if you want to figure out your cadence with the clock, count every revolution of the down pedal, one side or the other, multiply, you know, if you do it for 30 seconds, multiply it by 2, you'll have your cadence. And then you can kind of get used, you can kind of sense that cadence when you're out riding. But it's hard sometimes because you feel differently on different days. And then if you do it that way, you can wear a heart rate monitor wristwatch, so at least you can check your heart rate, know where you're at. And then when you're running, or even riding your motocross bike, you could have a heart rate monitor on your watch. So when you're done, you can, anytime you want to see it, you can see it. Or when you're done, you shut it off. It records that last session. It'll show you your average heart rate, how much time you spent in your average heart rate, and your max heart rate. And once you get to know your heart rates, you have a good idea where it's at according to the way you're feeling. But it's very important for your training zones on different days. Like if you're going to do, you're supposed to have an easy day, well then you don't want to get your heart rate up too high. Then there's a training zone which you should stay in and not go over that heart rate, because it's more of a recovery day. In most of my weekly routines, you're going to have a hard day the next day. I'm watching motocross as I talk, supercross, but you're going to have a hard day, and you got to be rested up and recovered for that hard day. So it's important to have your recovery days, your hard days. But recovery days, you're still training. For if you're riding your motocross bike, you're doing cornering drills, not to get your heart rate too high. And then you might do a moderate pace to an easy pace, cycling, ride, or running. So the whole thing about training is giving your body what it needs according to your fitness level consistently. Hey, it's time to stand up. Get her in a higher gear. Stand up for about 2 minutes. This is a good example of a lower cadence, but you're not gaining speed. And this might seem harder,